Hello and welcome to the Waterford Sportsability Podcast, brought to you in association with Waterford Sports Partnership and with the support of Healthy Ireland. My name is Karen Power and I'm the author of the Butterfly Barn series and a member of Waterford Sportsability Forum. Today I'm being joined by Chris Watts, a visually impaired triathlete from Dublin, and his dad Andy. Chris will discuss the role sports plays in his life and the importance of his family's support. I'm delighted today that we have Chris Watts with us as part of our podcast. And Chris is a para-triathlon athlete, and he's going to tell us about his story regarding your journey in sports, really, which is really inspiring, so I can't wait to hear. We've also have his dad along with us, Andy.
Hi.
And Andy will throw in a few things in the middle of it all, I'm sure, so it'll be lovely to have the chat. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
So I'm 18, I'm from Dublin. Sports always been the thing I've enjoyed really more than anything else. I've always been in sports, but different sports. Like I did rugby and stuff like that, just the general stuff you sort of try as a young kid, and sort of did judo. The only one I've always done would be swimming. I've been doing that since I was 3 or 4 maybe. Yeah, like I think we worked it out because we're obviously COVID at the minute. I think I worked it out that 3 months the pools were closed. That's the longest I've gone without a swim for like 15 years. So like I say, I'm only 18, so but yeah, then I've sort of settled on triathlon in the last few years, which was kind of mad for me because I was never really able to run like at all. Like I was a really bad runner.
So Chris, just to tell us, Stephen, your disability is to give us the just some kind of I'm legally blind, so I can't see very well. Like that's really all there is to it. I don't really know how to. It's hard to explain sort of what I can see a lot. Like I get this a lot. Like how much can you see? I'm like I don't know because I don't know what you can see. Like I don't know. I don't know what to. I said to one. Someone asked at training. I encourage people to be open about it and sort of ask me questions and joke about it because there's no need for it to be something that we don't talk about. And someone asked at training once, one of the girls, she was like we were running around the track, and I knew the track, I knew my surroundings because I've run around it like over and over again every week. And I just said, she was like, what can you see? And I said, well, you see that pole over there? And she goes, yeah. I was like, I can't. I was like, I knew it was there, but I was like, I can't see it. And she, so long story short, I can't. So you use an awful lot of your other senses, do you? Do you compensate that way?
Yeah, just sort of, hearing, I guess, mostly, but you can't really go around using your sense of taste to figure out too much about the world, but just make it up as I go along, really. Okay, and so you started with the swimming, was at 4, and that was your into the pool kind of thing, and that was just sort of a lessons thing. Like I always did lessons, never a swim club. It was never like a swim club, like competitive or anything like that. It was just, I think, you guys, mum and dad wanted me to be able to swim just for safety and being able to enjoy the pool on holidays and getting older and that sort of thing. Like I think that's why swimming was always prioritised. I wanted to quit at one point. I think I was probably about 9. Because I just felt like, I've learned to swim, I'm fine, I want to go and try something else. And they insisted that I stay with it, so I mean I'm glad they did because it became something that it's my headspace now, really, even more than the cycling or the running that go along with triathlon, which I've grown to love in the last few years. The swimming is really somewhere that I just kind of switch off and de-stress.
Brilliant. And then you didn't do that competitively, so when did you start thinking about doing something
like competitive?
More competitive,
I think for me, like you should do. I would encourage everyone to do sport, but I think you should do it to the point that you enjoy it, right? Like if you enjoy just doing it, just for fun, then just do that. I have learned that I enjoy winning. This is like, maybe that's not a good personality trait, but I enjoy winning. I enjoy getting better at things. I find that really rewarding. So that's why I went competitive. But it just sort of happened. I'd say 5 years ago. I was swimming
not competitively at the time, but I've been really lucky with some of the coaches I've had. I've been coached by a guy called Frank Cullinan. That might not mean anything to people in the room, but anyone listening to this who knows Frank, he deserves a shout out, and he's very well known within sort of swimming. And I was being coached with him, but where we were doing the sessions, the pool closed down for maintenance, and they were supposed to be closed for a couple of months, but they ended up closed for over a year. They found problems that they didn't know were there, and I was just desperate for a swim because, as I say, it was sort of my headspace. And one of the girls that was swimming there as well, she'd actually Catherine Walsh. She's retired now, but she represented Ireland in para-athletics, para-cycling, and then she retired after London 2012 after the para-cycling, and she won a silver medal. And she took up triathlons for a bit of fun because she didn't like retirement. Okay. And she ended up being approached to go to Rio and try and qualify for Rio. So she got involved in the triathlons, and she said to me while the pool was closed, like, I know you're desperate for a swim, come along to this triathlon. They're running a session, so it's a swim and a run. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to go for the swim, like that's all I was going for. I think everyone learns to run, unless you're in a running club, but I think generally kids learn to run because they see other people run, and I obviously never did in that sort of way, so I never learned to run. I was always sort of last on sports day, and I'd kind of reconciled the fact, like, I can't run, I just said that's fine. I said we went to the session, and we got there that morning, and I said, like, I said to my dad, I was like, I'm going for the swim, like, I'm not going to the run afterwards. And he was like, well, just wait and see, isn't it?
We'll see.
Yeah. I was like, okay. And that was like, so I did the swim, I got to know the coaches, and they kind of, no, go on, come down to the track, and they wanted me to try and go down to the track and all the rest of it. So I thought, right, okay, fine, you'll see me running and you'll be like, oh, okay, you can go. Like I thought I'd put them off, but I was actually dead lucky. I got one-on-one coaching with a guy called Gary Crossan. I'm giving everyone like shout outs here, just for anyone who knows them, like they deserve a shout out. Gary's kind of the reason I came back in a way, because he actually taught me how to run in an hour. Now I've gotten better and better since, but I went from not being able to run to actually getting the coordination down. And I left sort of feeling like, wow, like I can run, like, and that sort of feeling kind of brought me back. And then it was once I was in the sport, looking to do races and get involved, and I just decided that I wanted to do it competitively from there. So so that was the second sport then, the running. So to bring us to the third, the cycling. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I started the running through triathlon, so cycling was kind of like, these people were already familiar with cycling and that sort of thing, and I'd already sort of heard of tandem cycling, and I'd done it a couple of times and that sort of thing, and I enjoyed it, like I didn't, it's weird being on the back at first with trust, because you have no control over where you're going on the back of a tandem, but I got used to it pretty quickly, and again, like, it was just, there's too many to name, but like, met a lot of great people, and people just volunteered to give up their time and help out, get you on the back of a bike. And I think I started on a mad old heavy mountain bike, didn't I?
We actually borrowed a mountain bike tandem from Cycling Ireland. They have a couple that they rent out to people to try, and a couple of guys went out with a couple of very proficient cyclists, not me, went out with him for a spin now and then. And then once he'd been doing it a little while, I found online a second-hand tandem over in the UK. And before I went over, because I know very little about bikes, I went into the local bike shop and started asking questions of the manager in the bike shop, what I should be looking for, what I should be wary of. The conversation went on for about half an hour. And at the end of the conversation, he turned around and said, so what's he doing? And I said, well, he's doing triathlons at the moment. And so we're going to see where it goes. So he said, all right. He said, well, if he wants to go out for a spin, give me a shout. I do triathlons.
Isn't that lovely?
And this is the guy that he's been racing with ever since.
He'd never met me, and he just, like, people are great, like, he just volunteered. His name's Keith Joyce. He also deserves a shout out. More than anyone. Yeah, he's He's actually my run coach now, but yeah, he's class, and I'd say he's a reserved guy. Like, he doesn't speak for the sake of it, but when he does, people listen that kind of way.
Yeah.
He's quite a quiet guy, but when we race, we're like tethered in the swim, right? So from thigh to thigh, there's a tether from my leg to his, and what happens is he'll swim around the buoy.
Okay.
And then I'll feel the pull, and I'll know, like, oh, we're going around a turn. That's how that works.
Fantastic.
And then the cycle, sort of tandem, obviously, that keeps us together. I can't really get lost. And then the run is again like tethered, so just sort of a bungee clip from my race belt around my waist to his.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, he's a brilliant runner, but he gets in my head when we're running, because that was the one I probably struggled with the most. And he'd be getting in my head, sort of like talking to me towards the end of it, like, we're going to catch him. Yeah, because there's loads of people out at the same time. He's like, you see him from Tyrone, we're going to catch him. And your man from Tyrone's like, what the hell? What is this? And yeah, he gets the best out of me. So I mean,
you're competing against able-bodied.
I compete in the same field, in the same event, right? So they'll do waves, and usually it's like male under 40, male over 40, female, and they set them off sort of like 10-minute intervals or 5-minute intervals. And there is para categories.
Okay.
I'm not technically a para athlete yet. I have to go through, like, there's just sort of loops to jump through, and classification they call it. It's very boring, like, but no, but yeah, just that's not the technical term, but it is sort of races for like people with a disability. And I would clubs are very good. Like, if we just approach them, we let them know, look, I'm visually impaired, racing on a tandem with a guide. Is that okay? Is there space, and all the rest of it? And they'll accommodate you, and then like you kind of, I'm not really racing against other people. Like, I'm kind of racing against myself, and then hopefully when we get to the business end of it, I'll be in
you'll have the skills up, you'll have the fitness up, you'll be able to. That's kind of the.
Once we get to the sort of the, like, my goal is I would like to get to the Paralympics, qualify for that sort of thing. Like I say, I get a kick out of getting better at stuff and winning and being the best and all that. A bit of an ego, so. But yeah, so that's my goal. That's kind of what motivates me to go training. But
in terms of, say, you're training now, if you're training, you don't have to train in tandem with somebody. Do you just swim on your own when you're training?
In a pool, yeah. Like, I can see the bottom of the pool, so I know I can navigate a pool, no problem. But in the sea,
in the sea
or open water,
And in terms of, say, the cycling would obviously be, you're on the tandem for the cycling all the time.
But like, we would train
at
home with a turbo trainer a lot of the time. It's a little stand, and you put the back wheel of the bike on it.
Okay.
And it essentially turns the bike into like a watt bike. You get in the gym, just like a stationary bike. The bike doesn't go anywhere. The back wheel spins, but it's off the ground. So I do that a lot. It's kind of monotonous, but
you can keep it
gets the training in.
And would you train every day now? How's your?
Not every day would I like train hard. I would have one active recovery day a week where I maybe just stretching or that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then other days you're not going as hard as you can every single day. There's different sort of tempo sessions where you go a bit easier, maybe for a bit longer, and then sort of shorter, sharp sessions where you really get your heart rate up and that sort of thing. It's a science. I don't even understand some of it. I just sort of take the advice a lot of the time. But you learn just by being around it, sort of what's it.
Clubs and people,
that sort of thing.
Sport.
There's so many, like, I've been really lucky. I've been around some really knowledgeable people, so it's
and
great.
Are you part of a club, say in it's all triathlon, and so that's a club in itself, centred in, just to give us an idea.
Yeah, so I'm Pulse Triathlon Club. Another shout out, but yeah, Pulse have been brilliant. Just some class people, and I think it makes it much easier to train, because like there'd often be times, especially in the summer, where I'd be with friends and I'd be leaving early. Like, we might be in town and they're going into McDonald's, and I'll have like brought lunch, or I'll have eaten lunch before I go, just to eat something healthier. And then I'm leaving early to go to training, and people say, geez, like, that's a real sacrifice. Like, you sacrifice your social life, but like, it's an individual sport, but the club are brilliant. Like you go to the track or you go to the pool and it's just banter and having a laugh, getting to know people, and you get to know people very quickly because you see them when they're happy, like you see them when they've failed or they've just got injured or they've just won a race. Like you see the full range of people's emotions, and not like sort of the level calm persona that everyone puts out, if that makes sense. You see like unfiltered sort of versions of people, and you get to know people quite well, and as I say, there's some fantastic people in Pulse that it's not really a sacrifice socially, because I enjoy being with them, you know what I mean?
Because you've got the shared interest.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And in terms of dad, right? Like how many in the family, to give me
just the one, thankfully.
Just the one.
You'd do some running around if there was more.
And like say when did you discover about your sight? Like where did that
We knew straight away. He was born with a full head of white hair, so we knew straight away that he had albinism and that the eyesight would be an issue. So virtually from day one. But our attitude as he grew up was always to be open and to talk about it, and to give him every opportunity to do whatever he wanted to do. And as far as sport was concerned, we were always insistent that he learned to swim from a safety point of view. Plus, the opportunities when you're away on holiday or out with your friends or whatever, to actually have a bit of fun in the water. And to not be able to swim would be sacrilegious. But we always insisted that he do something other than just the swimming lessons. Didn't care what it was. Whatever he wanted to do, we were always just going to facilitate. I played rugby for a long time. I coached rugby when Christopher was small. And he decided when he was 6 that he wanted to come along and try rugby, because I was off a couple of nights a week coaching under 18s.
Yeah.
And that was fine. He was doing sport and he was happy, and the club accommodated him. And at that age, it wasn't too much contact, and he could see enough to be able to be involved.
Yeah.
As he got older, he realised for himself that rugby was perhaps not the sport for him, because he didn't know who to tackle and which part of the person to tackle. But our attitude was always, whatever you want to do, we will facilitate it, we will take you. He did Judo for 3 or 4 years, which is a great sport for people with visual impairment, because it's close contact to start with, and you can feel people's movements. It's not just somebody running at you. Yes. You start off close contact, and for visually impaired Judo, they actually start with a grip, where non-visually impaired Judo would start facing each other and not gripped.
Okay.
But again, there aren't that many people in the country doing visually impaired Judo, so he was entered into competitions for kids of his own age, just open competitions.
Which was good for you as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, different.
You just,
it's just kind of the status quo. Like I don't feel like I've got it hard. Like it just isn't. I've never known anything else. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. Everyone's got stuff to contend with. So, and in terms of the albinism, like for anyone who doesn't know, I don't know if we're on video, but I've got like really, really white hair. So like the term albino is very, very known and all that sort of thing. And albinism is just the condition where the name comes from. Well, I think it actually albinism comes from albino. Like I've just always been pretty comfortable with it. It's there's nothing you can't say to me in terms of like having to worry about offending me. I don't believe that there's anything offensive about it. Like you can joke about it, ask me questions. I'd rather people joked about it than didn't talk about it. Like ask me questions and I'll tell you the answer, and like everyone knows a bit more. It's
awareness is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sensitive about it at all. I don't think you can be.
We've always said, talk about the elephant in the room, and it goes away. It gets smaller and it goes away eventually.
Yeah.
So if you're open and accept that this is something, and we talk about it and we're open about it, people around us feel comfortable then to ask a question, and they don't feel uncomfortable around Chris or around other people. And it's kind of an education thing. People learn more if you're open and talk about it and accept it once they understand it.
Like, I know about this, right? Like, I know what it is and some of the, like, the effects it has and that sort of thing. And if I don't tell people, then how can I expect them to understand it? You know, that kind of way. Like, if I refuse to have a conversation about it, then people aren't going to understand it, and then it becomes sort of different or stigmatized. Like, it's impossible to integrate if you refuse to, like, open up the conversation, if that makes sense. So I've always been, you just got to talk about it. And as I say to my friends, I was like I set the tone usually because I joke about it. I don't see it, and I don't do it deliberately because I'm like, oh, I have to go and tell a joke so that people are comfortable. I just tend to joke about everything, and it's the same. Like, if I think of something that I think could be funny and it happens to be about my eyes or my hair, then I'll say it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And people kind of take their cue from that, I guess. And I had a friend turn around to me one day and he said, like, I hope you don't mind us joking about it. And I was like, no, like, I'd rather you joke about it instead of, not talking about it. Like, it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we joke about your curly hair sometimes. I don't know. Like, yeah. It's there, and as he says, like, talk about the elephant in the room. Yeah.
But the other thing I'm fascinated by, with this triathlon, do you get 3 different support to say if a guy's good at swimming, or does that guy has to be...
He's got to do the whole thing. Yeah, he's got to do the whole thing, yeah. So
you can't go and get, like, the best swimmer and the best whatever. You just got to get a guy who's good with all the things in tune with you, that you can trust. And like, you were telling a funny story there, tell us that before we started recording, about coming down the hill and the guano route.
We were which was this with there was a couple.
The speed bump.
The speed bump, right. So the first race I did with this guy Keith, we did it was over in Galway, and we decided, like, we had to do a couple of training runs, and we did one just out where we're from in Dublin, and he hadn't really been on a tandem before, so we had to do the sort of just to familiarise and get the communication and iron out any sort of bumps, I guess, for want of a better word. And we were doing about 60 kilometres an hour down a hill into a village. And obviously, because you're coming into a village, there was, like, speed bumps, and just naturally, like, he'd been cycling for years, and he just naturally sort of lifted out of the saddle a little bit to take the bump, and he sort of prepared himself, but he forgot to tell me it was coming. So he just sort of stopped, and, like, he was dead calm, and I'm there thinking we're still just going down a flat road, and I nearly went over the top of him because we hit this bump. I nearly went. So that's just the trust, and
it's him trying to figure out how to communicate to you. Oh yeah, the other thing is there a little radio mic, or is this shouting?
No, he's shouting. I tell you what, like, they have to shout sort of instructions back. It's gas when we're in a race, because, as I say, like, you could have, like, 500 people doing a race, right? So you're always going past someone, or someone's going past you. Not very often, but someone, like, you're always around other cyclists.
He's not competitive
on the bike. No, I tell you what. But yeah, so there's always people around, because there's so many people doing it, and for us, for my distance, it's a 20k cycle, and you're always sort of within earshot of other cyclists, and we'll be coming up, and there's been ones where we're coming up to a roundabout, right? And I remember we'd been just like 20 metres behind this guy for a long stretch, sort of a couple of turns and a couple of roundabouts, and every time the guy guiding me would shout back, he'd be like, left turn coming up, 3, 2, 1, and he'd be giving it, telling me when it was, and he'd be like, we're going straight onto this roundabout. And we went past this guy eventually, and he just looked and he was like, I was wondering who you were talking to. Because he had no idea, like, your man was telling me what was going on. He was like, this weirdo was just shouting at himself.
He's talking the race out to himself.
Yeah, so it's no, there's no mic or anything. It is just kind of shout. Sometimes you get like, stopping, and I'm like, what? And it's too late. Like, we've already sort of stopped if there's something has to happen quick. But I always say to them, like, if you need to brake, or if you need to swerve or whatever, just do it and explain to me later. Like, just keep me on the bike. Just don't crash. Explain what happened later. Like, you don't need to run it by me first. I trust you. So trust is the biggest thing about the tandem. Yeah. Trust is the biggest thing about being on a bike. The fastest we've had is 84k an hour. So So I'd be. See, this is not one of the bigger goals, but one day we'll get it over 100. But yeah. So like you gotta trust whoever's steering that bike, because you don't want to come off at 80 something km/h.
Oh my God! I could have 100 things on the bike. Yeah, it's amazing. And now, tell me, where do you go in relation to what's the next step for you're saying the Paralympics? So how do you get to that point? You have to get certain scores, certain rate. Tell us.
Well, as I say, like firstly, I've got to be classified, which is just sort of saying, they have to do assessments to make sure you meet you qualify, and and then. Excuse me. So there's a 2-year qualification period for Paralympics. So the 2 years leading up to it, and basically there's like the International Triathlon Union will pencil in sort of like dates that points are available, and there'll be plenty. And I think you just have to try and get as many points as possible in the.
And you have to go to those races.
Yeah, you have to go and
across
all around the world.
Yeah.
So I think there's a funding problem then.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes there can be. Yeah.
And you literally have to find a way to fund that.
Yeah.
So that's down to your community or the Triathlon Association.
See, but there is carding for athletes and that. So you've got to, like money's. They can't throw it, around willy nilly.
Yeah.
So there is often sort of, I don't know. It's a tough one. Like you've kind of got to show that you deserve the funding.
Determined, yeah.
But you've got to show that you're really committed and you're good and you deserve the funding. But it's almost hard to do that without the backing sometimes, if that makes sense. So you've got to just put yourself on the map.
To get the funding, you've already got to be competing internationally and successful.
Okay.
For them to actually give you any funding. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You've got to be out there already doing it and funding it yourself before they'll give you any money.
Before they give you sort of another support.
But it's the 2-year period leading up to the Olympic Games. You have to compete at international events.
I think they take your best 3 scores from each year, is it?
Yeah, from the 2 previous years.
Okay.
And different events carry different amounts of points depending on how many athletes are there, depending on the standard of the race, whether it's a World Series or a World Cup event, depending what it is. So you need to be competing internationally, you need to be doing very well internationally, because there are only 10 slots for visually impaired male athletes at the Paralympic Games.
Because the thing is, like, you get...
From Ireland?
From the world.
From the world.
From the world.
So what happens, because when you do, like, you take the Olympics and it's just, you've got a men's triathlon and a women's triathlon.
Okay.
Right? You've got, like, one of each. So you can have 50 people in each, maybe. I just plucked that number, but it's definitely a bigger number than we have. And the reason for that is because when you do the Paralympics, you've got visually impaired men, visually impaired women, wheelchair men, wheelchair women. Like, then there's different categories for amputees and this sort of thing, like depending on the disability, right? Yes. So I'm not competing against someone in a wheelchair. So there's different categories. So like if there's 5 male categories with 10 in them, well, there's your 50 athletes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, you've got it. I think the way it works is the top 8 qualify automatically. The top 8 points, they automatically qualify, and then I think there's a couple of wild card spots, and I think that's just there to, let's say the consensus best in the world was injured for a year and didn't have enough points to qualify. They could make the pitch and say, this is like my PB, right? Like I won a gold medal at the last Paralympics. Everyone knows I'm really good, and you can kind of make your case that way. But yeah, that's a fair way down the road. Like I just keep working right now. I try and get a PB every year, try and get better year on year. So as I say, like it wouldn't have been ever something that I thought was possible. Like I really had such a low opinion of my ability to run, just because that's what I was used to. So yeah, like it's just getting better year on year, and hopefully one year we'll be there.
Absolutely, and I absolutely see it. You know, and it's fantastic, isn't it? But Chris, like you're an inspiration, I have to say. And your dad, like just it's a case of, you discovered you have your child and you're told this word albino, and then you're going, okay, where do I go from here? And you just decided we'll go wherever we want to from here, because that's
See, like, I don't know.
There's no limits. Like,
this is something
no limits.
I've said before. Is like I find it really weird when people say you're an inspiration. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
But I find it really weird because I don't know what else I'm supposed to do.
Well, that's the thing.
That's the thing. Like, this is like, what am I going to do? Like, sit at home and be miserable? Like, the only person that would suffer is me. No one else is going to be out living their life.
See, this is wonderful because you think that way. But there's so many other people that they're told a word or a line and they just go, oh.
Well, like, I couldn't see yesterday. I couldn't see yesterday. I can't see today. I'm not going to be able to see tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, like, let's start, like, enjoying stuff today. Let's go.
Just live
and that's what I would say to someone. Like, this is kind of tough. This might not be what you want to hear, but if you don't have, like, if whatever your disability is, if you only have one arm today, you're only going to have one arm tomorrow. I'm sorry, but it isn't going to grow back. Like, just, go and figure out what you want to do and go and do it. Like, it's not going to. Your circumstances probably aren't going to change that in that way, so you kind of got to just go and make them a bit more enjoyable. Like, everyone's got stuff. That's the thing. I've got a disability, but everyone's got stuff. People aren't we're not like born equal. You know what I mean? Some people are born into wealth. Some people are born into poverty. Some people everyone's just got their own kind of personal stuff to deal with. So, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm at a disadvantage. This is I find it weird, yeah.
We've been really lucky, right? Chris has a disability, he's visually impaired. We've always been very open and talked about it with people, and we've always facilitated him in anything that he wants to do. But we have met some fantastic people along the way that have been fantastic role models for him, both normally sighted people and other disabled athletes. We know wheelchair athletes. We know a guy that's only got one arm who races triathlon. We know we've met so many different people with so much passion and inspiration who they don't consider themselves, none of them consider themselves to be disabled at all.
So that's the word you've grown up in terms of,
He's had some fantastic role models along the way. And in our experience, anybody with a disability, no matter what sport you want to try, you get in touch with your local club and talk to people, and most people will be more than accommodating. So and it's all down to sport.
Like you, Andy, would you have had, before Chris came along, had you any experience of the world of disability or sports?
No more than anybody else. No.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Do you think that you come on a journey?
Oh God, yeah.
Amazing journey. I think.
Yeah. He's met some fantastic role models. I've met some fantastic people. Yeah. I know guys and I've met guys that they're just so normal, down to earth human beings, in spite of being in a wheelchair or only having one leg, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We've met some absolutely astounding people. We've met some fantastic coaches along the route. And it's just, and the people in his club, in his triathlon club, in the judo club, wherever it was, the people that we've met have been great. And they've all wanted to help. They've all wanted to learn about how to help, about what they need to change to include people, which is one of the things that Cara do a huge amount of.
Vision sports.
And vision sports for visually impaired people.
Yeah.
I think people take their cue from you as well, though, right? Like, it's not a big deal to us. It's just like, I want to try something, maybe there's a couple of extra hurdles, what do we do to get over them? Grand, let's go from here.
Let's go.
That's literally, that's the process, that's all there is to it. It's not a big thing all the time. And people just kind of take their, like, oh, okay, he's not thinking about it, so, like, I'm not going to dwell on it either, yeah.
Well, that's it. You talk to people, you explain the problems that you're likely to have, that you're likely to come across, or that Chris has got, or any of the other lads that we know. You're open about it, you invite a conversation about it, And people will try and generally support you and come up with a solution to that conversation, to that problem, to make it so that you can be included.
Which is fantastic.
As I say, we've met some fantastic people, some great people. We've had some great fun as well along the way.
Yeah, just lots of experiences. Like I think about the sort of the people that I enjoy being with the most, and their company that I enjoy the most and that I get the most out of. And I'm like, I probably wouldn't have met most of them if I wasn't visually impaired, because we picked Judo because I'm visually impaired, right? Because I think we saw it as an alternative to other martial arts, because I'm sorry, you can do anything, but maybe not karate if you can't see. Like, that might not be the one for you. But we saw being the close contact, that was a way to, do something like that. And even I haven't done that for 6 years, and my best mate today is still someone I met through that. We both, neither of us do it anymore, but we met through sport, and we keep in touch, and we'll still sit sometimes and reminisce about like we remember the first time we sparred together and that sort of thing, and we would have been like 9 at the time, do you know what I mean? And we're still kind of talking about it now. And then the same in triathlon. Like, again, I wouldn't have been involved in triathlon. It probably just wouldn't have been something that I would have considered if
that pool hadn't been closed, you might not have ever.
The only reason I was there was because Vision Sports Ireland were running swim sessions. So I was going to their swim sessions, which I wouldn't have been going to if I wasn't visually impaired. I wouldn't have met Frank Cullinan, who is now teaching me to teach swimming. So I'm helping him with those classes that I was going to. I'm like an assistant teacher there now. And I wouldn't have met Catherine Walsh. She wouldn't have asked me to come along to Paratriathlon. I wouldn't have met all these people. So,
and now you're giving something back, which is important. Do you know what I mean?
He kind of, Frank, he sort of, I never really thought about coaching, but he kind of just, I don't know, I guess he kind of willed it into happening in a way. Like, we'd be talking and he'd just be saying, when you're 16 and we get you through your assistant teacher's course, and then you'll be 18 and you can do, level like this, whatever, you can do that. And he was just talking about it like, this is going to happen. Like, he wasn't saying, if you can do it with your eyesight. Like, he just kind of,
he just took that you're going to do it.
We can do this, so let's do it. And I just kind of took my cue from that. Okay, fair enough. Let's go for it. And I enjoyed being with him, and I enjoyed learning from him. And I mean, I almost learned more from coaching, because when you're coaching, you're actually really, really thinking it through.
You're ingrained into your...
You really think about it more. You're like, why am I telling someone to do this? And you're thinking about your stroke as well. So, no, it's all good.
Okay. So I think we really have... you've brought us on a great journey here today, and I hope the listeners today realise, just get down to your local pool, go to your local club, contact Waterford Sports Partnership. There's a range of facilities to guide people. And look, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Sorry, just one. I know this is Waterford Sports, and thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk. I guess again, I say it's kind of weird for me that it's so fascinating to people, but if it is, then I'm happy to talk. Some people, sport might not be your thing, right? Sport isn't for everyone. That has people who don't have a disability. Some of them don't like sport. Yes. Some people with a disability won't be good at sport, but it doesn't have to be because of your disability. You might be the best guitar player we've ever seen, or you might be really good at drama, or you might be something, just
find that something.
If you're not good at sport, that's fine, but if it's not because of your disability that you can't do sport. That's not the reason.
Exactly. That's a nice way of summing it up. Thank you so much to both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Gillian. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Waterford Sportsability Podcast, supported by Healthy Ireland. Be sure to follow us on social media at Waterford Sportsability, and check out other episodes available on all major podcast platforms.